On day 34, it appears the shutdown may be entering a new phase, with numerous groups and agencies crossing ideological lines, calling for an immediate end of the shutdown, including 5 former Homeland Security secretaries, former White House Chief of Staff John Kelly among them. And now others are getting more vocal about just what might happen if this thing drags on.
This is about our safety and security and our jobs and our entire country's economic stability. There is no excuse to continue this. This is not a political game. Open the government today.
As I'm sure you've seen, the 2 measures that would have done just that, one GOP-sponsored, one from the Dems, were voted down in the Senate this afternoon, as was widely expected. So now the few optimists left among us are hoping those dual failures will at least open the door for a real resolution.
Hopefully, once that occurs and all sides have laid out their position, we can then begin using this as a catalyst to take the next steps.
But what are the next steps when the 2 sides are so fundamentally far apart? Is it going to take a security breach or a terror attack to make one of the 2 sides blink? Joining me are Joanna Weiss, former Boston Globe columnist, now editor of Experience magazine at Northeastern University. Good to see you. Jennifer Nassour is former chair of the Massachusetts Republican Party, now COO of ReflectUS. It's a bipartisan, female-focused political organization. Good to see you, too.
Great to be here.
So, some are suggesting, I don't know, that Senator rounds, that the votes themselves, the fact they took votes, even though they both failed, are some progress. Are they?
I mean, it's action, I guess, instead of just going on cable TV and talking. So, and it gave an opportunity for some Republicans to cross the aisle. Mitt Romney,
6 of
Lisa
them.
Murkowski, yeah, 6 of them crossed the aisle. So
Only one Democrat crossed Joe
right.
Manchin to join the Republicans.
But I think it's still statement making as opposed to real progress.
Is it? I mean, they did do something. And by the way, Mitch McConnell's historic position until today was nothing is coming up for a vote unless I know Donald Trump would sign it. Arguably, he wouldn't have signed that, but he did allow Chuck Schumer, to sponsor this. Let's just open until February 8th with no deal. Is that some small step forward?
I mean, it's a small step forward, but I think, the real problem here is that there's a lot of grandstanding going on. There's a lot of heels being dug into the sand and no one wanting to move. I mean, I think that it's a tiny step forward, but again, is it theatrics? Is it just to show, oh, look, we're actually trying to do something, but those dirty Democrats and those disgusting Republicans, no one's moving?
But so what's the trigger? Maybe a poor choice of words. I mean, when people said up until these statements the last 24 hours, it's going to be a plane crash or a terror attack, I bristled. But then I say, maybe it is. Is it Donald Trump's poll numbers are cratering? You can look at the Associated Press poll. His approval in 1 month has dropped 8 points, which is pretty significant. I mean, what is it that causes them, to use your word, to blink, to get off their mark?
Right. I think it's the Democrats seeing a poll, which hasn't come out yet that I've seen, that says that they're starting to get ownership of this. Because right now...
Well, they're not in any of the polls I saw.
No, and that's the problem. I mean, that's the problem with progress on this, is that they don't have any incentive. He's taking the blame for this, and they have no incentive to budge.
But if that's extending your thesis that until the Democrats see that they're sharing some of the blame, the Republicans are taking almost all the blame. And so why are there are 3 pressure points: Senate Republicans, Donald Trump, or the House Democrats. Based upon what you said in the polling data, why are Senate Republicans not fearful that they're going to suffer if they don't more than where they needed 8 more of them to vote for this Democratic resolution bill and then get the president to vote for it?
I mean, I think they're concerned about the base the same way that the president is. There's the polls.
Losing part of the base too.
There's the polls, right? But there's still that. There's still again that sort of cable talk radio shouting in their ears. You can't budge on the security issue, and I think they're having a really hard time. Most of them getting past that.
I guess this is the unrealistic part of me. I just read seconds before you two got here. I was looking for the most current story of someone who's suffering. Let me just give you one. Her name is Candace Hall. This is the Washington Post late this afternoon. She works for the Bureau of Prisons, Lexington, Kentucky. She has an 8-year-old kid, Amy. The kid has cerebral palsy and chromosome deficiency. Most of the day-to-day expenses, they won't take IOUs or these shutdown letters. It's got to be out of pocket. So the mother is cutting back on her daughter's medical therapy. What kind of people hold to their political positions when there's thousands of Candace Halls who are, forget the adults, kids are suffering? I mean, how does that not move anybody?
It should. And you know what should have happened is that instead of doing a government shutdown and 800,000 people not getting paid, they should have said, all of you elected officials, every member of Congress, every staffer, every member of Capitol Police, you're not getting paid.
Amen.
And watch how quickly all of them come to the table, because they would not want to take a single dollar out of their pockets. They would rather spend taxpayer dollars.
Well, instead, you're getting these incredibly tone-deaf statements. What was it, the Commerce Secretary today, who said, I don't understand why people are going to food pantries to get food, take out a loan. I mean, he's a billionaire. I mean, there are also a lot of people in the government who aren't feeling the pain and who
Did you hear Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Eric Trump's wife, who said, well, a little bit of pain, but in the future for your kids and your grandchildren. I mean, is that cruelty or is that cluelessness?
I think it's mostly cluelessness. I mean, I really do think that that some of these folks are so separated from day-to-day life and paycheck-to-paycheck life that they can't even conceive of this.
You know, the new Republican leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy from California, here's what he had to say, listen to what he had to say. Kevin McCarthy.
I'm requesting that we all, leadership, get in the room tomorrow and make a commitment to one another, that we stay in that room until we solve the problem.
You know, my naive self is going to say, I hope he really means that. Because the only way to resolve any of these intractable things is for relative grown-ups, I mean, and I can't just say outright grown-ups, to do this kind of thing. But I worry this is just posturing. They're worried, the Republicans are worried they're losing this polling battle, so we have to pretend like we're into some bipartisan. Is anybody on Capitol Hill, anybody you know a lot of these people, saying, we gotta blink a little bit, we gotta give up a little bit, or maybe the other side's got to give us a little room so we're not embarrassed leaving this thing? That's how you settle and go. Is anybody doing that amongst your Republican friends?
So I would say I love Kevin McCarthy. I think he's great, and Liz Cheney is great, and I think that
by former vice president's daughter, for those who don't know, who's a member of the House,
and she's tough, and I think that they will come together as a new group and say, Republicans just got shellacked in 2018. We need to step it up here. And the reason that the Senate Republicans don't care and the reason that the president and his team don't care is because 2020 is a long way off in politics. Memories don't go that far. And so his poll numbers are low today, and then tomorrow they're back up again.
Do memories go? I mean, I fall prey to long-term memory-itis. And I'm usually wrong, I have to say, you're right. But it seems to me in this situation, when you hear like the Homeland Security people saying the attrition rate is horrible, we're going to have to retrain people and all that sort of, and if I'll tell you, if I was Candace Hall, I would never forgive these people. And she's going to go back to work someday. I mean, my sense is memories may be longer this time, no?
But here's the operating memory is Donald Trump went and said, I promise a wall. And that's the thing that it's that rhetorical memory that people are going to go back to, because at some point this will end. And at some point people will get their paychecks and this story and all the sob stories will fade. And the question is going to be, did he fulfill his campaign promise? Can he credibly go back and say, I got a wall, even if it's a sliver of fence? And that's what people are going to remember.
But speaking of blinking for a second, I know people at home are tired of me asking this question almost every single night. Maybe you have a better answer than others have had. If the Democrats say it's immoral to do a nickel on the wall, then they were immoral a year ago when they offered $25 billion, not $5.7 billion, $25 billion in return for a deal on Dreamers. And Donald Trump has opened the door on Dreamers, not a pathway to citizenship. Why don't they go back and say $2 billion for the wall, as immoral as we consider it, because we care most about those young people who moved here and through no fault of their own, and cut it. That's how you negotiate a deal. Why can't they do that?
No, it's true. And that's the tricky thing, is that they've been backed into the same rhetorical corner. I mean, one thing that I will give the Republicans credit for is that the Democrats, I feel like, are talking tougher and more consistently on the need for border security than I think we've heard them do in the past. The question is, can they get a DACA deal that they can go back and say, this is more than we had before?
Very quick. Are we get anywhere close to a resolution here?
When? I mean, like, are we talking tomorrow before the weekend, or are we talking
days,
a month?
Second paycheck they don't get tomorrow, federal employees.
Right. And
how soon are we going to be out of this?
Well, sadly, I think, one, it will take a tragedy. And
you do.
Yeah. And then two, I mean, unless the Republicans in Congress can say, in the House, can say, let's sit down, We're going to sit down with Pelosi and
Well,
her
McCarthy
people
just said it.
and
Hopefully
be able to get it done. Whether they can keep them locked in that room, though, and actually come out with a deal or not that would be palatable to the Senate is a whole different
How long
story.
quickly do you think?
You know, Trump blinked on the State of the Union address.
Yeah,
I think,
point.
maybe he'll blink.
Right.
Let's hope. Jennifer, good to see you.
Good to
Thanks
see
so
you.
much, Joanna. Pleasure, as always. Really appreciate it.